Hello my friends, let's start from the military map update. We have some of the good news and not good news. Let's go to the Bakhmut first because there are some changes in the recent 24 hours and Russia took more ground. Unfortunately, they were able to cross the railroad and they've took a couple of the streets over there, so it was yesterday and it is today, so definitely here they were successful crossing the road. And the gray fighting area is now bordering this part of the city with the tall buildings. The Ukrainian army is using those buildings for the precision fire against the Russian forces that are now assaulting towards that district. And that's why the tactics for Russia is to destroy those buildings. They are using aviation bombs, artillery, and other stuff to eliminate the advantage of Ukrainian army in that area. On the other parts of the city, Russia has no movement and also they are unable to take Kromova still. Today, Wagner's reported that they had successful mission on taking part of the Kromova under their control, but it is fake. This is a very important crossroad that the Ukrainian army uses for supplies, and we have the satellite images of that area. So this is the supply road near to Kromova, and you may spot a couple of the roads. One is from this part and one is from that part. And the Ukrainian army did the trench work there before, that is why we are capable to resist against the Russian assaults. You may also spot the smoke on the satellite image, and if we speak about the ground, it's like a moon terrain with lots of the holes from the artillery shells. There are thousands of them. And this is the closer look on the Ukrainian trenches, and here you can see some of the vehicles that were demolished by the artillery fire. So that area is somewhere over here near to Kromova. Also today, some of the Russian journalists reported that Bakhmut is encircled by the Wagner forces. But the leader of Wagner, Prigozhin, said himself that it's fake. And on this map we may confirm that Bakhmut is far to be encircled. It will never be encircled actually, because Russia is out of the resources. What they may do is they may cut Ukrainian supplies in that area, and because of that I think it's better to withdraw the forces from Bakhmut. But still, the Ukrainian command knows better than me, obviously. If we go from Bakhmut to Avdiivka, there are no any changes. Russian regular army is struggling over there, and I promised you the good news. So if we go to Marinka over here on the south part, you will see the advantage of Ukrainian army. So it was yesterday and it is today. Clearly we took some sort of the ground over there, so it is happening. It is not the counterattack or something, but sometimes Ukrainian army go on a small offensive attacks taking the ground. Yes, Russia does it more often, especially in the Bakhmut city, but what can we do? Ukrainian army secures their forces for the massive counterattack, which will happen very soon. It's been 3 months since I'm using the ground news. This news resource was designed and found by the ex-NASA engineer. The idea behind the ground news is to collect the stories around the world, to sort them properly and deliver to you. For example, I'm interested about the war in Ukraine, so what I do, I put in the search the war in Ukraine and I have all of the related news about that. We have the top news that got lots of the attention, we got the blind spots that usually is out of our attention, also based on your preferences, and also we have the latest stories. And just by scrolling down you may see what is happening around Ukraine. For example, here we have many news saying about NATO. President Zelensky says it's time for Ukraine to join the alliance. The German defense minister says that it's time to discuss the Ukrainian membership in NATO. And even Stoltenberg says that Ukraine has a rightful place in NATO. So you can clearly see the trend that many of the officials, politics and military, they want Ukraine to join NATO, and soon it's gonna be meeting between Ukraine and NATO alliance, and they will decide their roadmap for Ukraine to join the alliance. But my opinion is that until the war is over, they will not welcome Ukraine in NATO, unfortunately. Otherwise, NATO should react militarily on the Russian assault of the sovereign Ukrainian territory, and no one wants that escalation. About the blind spots, if you tend to deviate to the right or to the left, you may miss some information. That's why you you have the separate column for the news that you might have missed. So this is interesting for me. Ukraine planned the attacks on Russian forces in Syria. So how it was possible? Let's click on it and you'll see that Ukraine planned the attacks, and we have many of the articles from other media resources that are presented on the ground news. On the right hand side you can see the news coverage details and the bias distribution, so it's 67% right. Probably that is why I missed it. And a little lower you can see the factuality, so mostly those news were based on facts, the mixed and the high, which is good. And yes, you may also check the enemy site out there, for example Rio Novosti, but you may see the wording, it's Russia affiliated, it's leaning to the right, it's based on low faculty, and it's government owned by Russia. Sometimes I also check the enemy site to understand with what propaganda they may feed the people. But for example Portland Press Herald, I don't know what is that, but it has the high faculty on the same news, and it is more or less independent, so let's click on it. Ukraine planned the attack on the Russian forces in Syria, but now I understood why and how Ukraine might do it. The Ukrainian military intelligence developed a plan to use the secret Kurdish help group to attack the Russian forces there. We know that from the top secret United States document that leaked to the press. But we know from the same leaked documents and from the same article that Vladimir Zelensky halted this operation in December. So quite a big article over here. They speak about how Ukraine might do it, they speak about the Kurdish forces, about Syria in general. Very interesting. The ground news is not a big media corporation or something. It is quite a small community of intelligent people and enthusiasts who really love their job. So please follow my personal link, which you may find in the video description just below. You may sign up for free on this resource, the ground news, or you may subscribe to have unlimited access. It is not only the website, they also have the very convenient application for the mobile devices. And the ground news is also the partner and the sponsor of my channel. So ground news, thank you for sponsoring this video. Awesome news, the Ukrainian units are ready for the offensive operation. Jens Stoltenberg, the NATO chief, said about that after the Ramstein meeting. And we know that the Ukrainian command deliberately holds back a good chunk of its forces and stockpiles of ammunition. So if we send all of that to Bakhmut, obviously we will retake the city. But liberating the Bakhmut city is not that important compared to the operation that will be conducted on the south, and we know that it will be over there. And yes, I know that the General Ben Hodges is the former commander of the United States forces in Europe, but still he says very important things. He says that the counteroffensive of the armed forces of Ukraine will be conducted on a narrow segment of the southern front to break through the Russian defense lines. Because by doing so, the Ukrainian army solves lots of the tasks. First of all, cutting the Russian army in two, so they will have supply madness. The second thing, that we're gonna get closer to Crimea, cutting supplies from that peninsula. The third plus, that we'll have the access to Azov Sea in case of the successful counterattack. And from the Azov Sea we may try to cut the Russian supplies through the Kerch Bridge, using the submarine drones that were delivered to Ukraine. One more plus, I think it's fifth already, we're gonna bring closer the artillery systems as HIMARS that are able to fire the long-range gliding shells. And we may cover, at least partially, the Russian bases in Crimea. And the Patriot systems may also eliminate the risk of the Russian aviation. So for those reasons, I agree with Ben Hodges that the south direction is the most profitable. However, Russians were able to build the defense lines. In that case, Ukrainian army will lose lots of the soldiers during this counterattack, unfortunately. But there is the chance to make it very fast, and in that case we may avoid severe losses. And the United States have already announced that they will start the training of the Ukrainian troops on the Abrams tanks very soon. The Abrams tanks were sent to Germany, and after the training is completed, they will go to Ukraine. I expect them to arrive to Ukraine during the summertime. Today on the Ramstein meeting, officials say that Ukraine got more than 230 tanks from the Allies. Not all of them are advanced tanks like Leopard 2 or Challenger 2, there are some modernized Russian tanks. But the number of the armored vehicles is just astonishing, 1,500. And with that help, Ukraine was able to form 9 armor brigades. And the good thing that partners and allies are ready to support Ukraine as long as it takes. Well, actually, I got the higher expectations from this Ramstein. We haven't received the long-range missiles like ATACMS, and the talk about the fighter jets is bogged down. Nevertheless, the Ukrainian Defense Minister Reznikov is sure that we'll have the Western-made jets in Ukrainian army soon. Well, I think that they will arrive this year. I hope that I will not be wrong. The interesting statement from the German Defense Minister, he says that it is acceptable for Ukrainian army to conduct the military operations on the territory of Russia. He says that, for example, the enemy supply lines could be the legal targets for Ukrainian army. I would add also the Russian military bases. Well, there is the interesting change as you see in the German policy, and now the Germany is one of the biggest supporters of Ukraine. And some of the countries support Ukraine with everything they have. For example, Latvia will send all of the Stingers they have in their own army. They understand that it's better to support Ukraine right now, otherwise the Russian peace may come to their homes. Yeah, those ex-Soviet republics as Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia, they're doing fantastic job supporting Ukraine because they understand how difficult it is to live near to this neighbor as Russia. And we have the common history being in USSR, so they understand also how terrible it is to go back. And Russia wants to go back and create the new USSR. Alright, funny news. Prigozhin said that Peskov's son was fighting for the Wagner forces. Well, there is no any evidence of Peskov's son fighting for Wagner except just the words of Prigozhin. I'm sure that Kremlin would have taken everything from that story if this was true. But for sure, it is false. Yesterday we talked about the failed mission of Ukrainian agents to organize the transfer of the Russian airplanes, military airplanes, just hijacking them from the Russian Federation, and the Russian FSB instead informed their military, and their military just launched the rockets to the place where the jets should have arrived to. And here you can see the remains of the Ukrainian airplanes. I guess it was the Sukhoi Su-24, and there is one more explosion and the remains of the Sukhoi Su-27. So according to the information, Ukraine lost at least 2 of the airplanes, plus there was the hangar with Bayraktars. It is a poorly conducted failed operation, and now the agent who was responsible for this deal is under the prosecution. And here we have the video of the Ukrainian forces. Before you saw probably this picture of the truck with this arrow new sign of the Ukrainian counteroffensive, and there are also many armored vehicles like Bradleys, and as you can probably see, they also have the similar marking, the arrow on the side. So it's the sign of the new Ukrainian counteroffensive that will be conducted very soon. I'm sure about it. Alright, about Sudan, the situation there is very terrible. There is still major fighting between the army forces of the country and the special forces, and lots of the countries including France and the United States send their special forces to that country to evacuate their citizens. I also read in an article today that Japan sent the Hercules C-130 airplane to evacuate their citizens from Sudan. There are at least 60 Japanese citizens. And I will try to find out the information about the Ukrainian crew members of the SkyUp Airlines. There should be around 40 people, and I don't know their destiny until this moment. My friends, now press the like to this video, and also I highly recommend you to subscribe for the ground news. You may find my personal link in the video description just below. Please support the team of the ground news. They are doing a fantastic job. My friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.